Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Super Apex by Ike Hamill. Narrated by James Foster. Chapter 1. Preface. Zack put his toe down first and transferred his weight carefully. Walking quietly was getting easier, but he still couldn't match his brother's light step. His brother wasn't here, though. He didn't have to compete with him at all. The woods were quiet and a little damp. The morning fog hadn't completely lifted yet. Zack glanced up at his father. His dad pointed in a series of gestures that Zack didn't understand. When he raised his shoulders in a questioning shrug, his father looked disappointed. He pointed again, and Zack finally understood. He would loop to the left while his father angled right. The deer were little more than a concept so far. He would catch a patch of brown or a flash of white from a flicking tail. They had to get a clear look. Zack was only licensed to take a buck. Stepping carefully, he pushed himself around a tree limb and tried to find his father through the trees. Zack's heart nearly stopped. His father was gone. His father moved fast, but he couldn't have gone completely out of view. The tree had only blocked Zack's angle for a second. Zack's instructions in this circumstance were clear. He waited. The worst he would do was miss the action. There would be hell to pay if he crashed around and spooked the herd. It would have been so much easier to see his father if they had both been wearing their blaze orange vests. There was no excuse not to. It was the law. But after they had posted the property against trespassers and made sure that all the other hunters in the area would respect their lot, his father had declared that they would carry the vests in their pockets and only wear them after the kill. Time passed. Zack shifted his weight, and a stick cracked under his shoe. He was mortified, thinking that his father would appear and chastise him for the noise. It was his own fault for coming hunting. He could have gone to Ed's house with his brother. Ed had games to play, and his mother cooked homemade egg rolls with the mustard that would clear out his sinuses. Zack inhaled, thinking about the mustard. He smelled deer pee. His father made them put it on their hats to mask their scent. This was stronger, though. Probably the real thing. It came on the wind and smelled fresher than the stuff on his hat. Zack studied the trees, thinking he might catch sight of his father. Maybe his old man had decided to circle back to him. He caught a movement and turned his head. The animal's head turned, too, to look at him. Zack's eyes went wide. His hands, still pointing his rifle properly at the ground, became greasy with sweat. The metal and wood slipped in his slack grip. Zack smelled fresh urine, really fresh, as it soaked through his pants. The thing he was looking at was a killer, too, and it didn't need a gun. He managed to flick off the safety and start to raise the rifle, but his sweaty hands couldn't seem to grip the weapon. It slipped from his grip and tumbled towards the ground. With his last-ditch effort to grab it, his thumb pulled the trigger. Bang! Zack's paralysis broke before the shot finished echoing through the woods. He sprinted away from the animal. "Stop! Slow down! Catch your breath! Where the fuck is your rifle, and why did you shoot?" his father asked. Zack swallowed. It felt like his tongue was caught in his throat, and he was trying to swallow it whole. Before he could answer, his father pushed him to arm's length and looked down at him. "Did you wet your fucking pants? Jesus, fuck, boy! What the hell's wrong with you?" Zack managed to raise a finger and point. "It's too huge," Zack said. He tried to swallow again. His mouth was dry. He stabbed a finger in the direction he had come from and backed away. "Come on," his father said. "We have to go get your rifle. What did you shoot at?" Zack shook his head. His father grabbed his sleeve and dragged him along. Zack was big enough to get away if he really tried. His father was only hanging on to him with one hand. The other hand was for his own rifle, which he pointed roughly in the direction they were headed. "This way?" his father asked. Zack tried to answer, but couldn't find his voice. "Speak up." "Yeah, huh?" Zack managed. "Would you keep up, please?" Zack coughed and forced himself to move forward. The idea of the enormous animal was already fading. The power of his father, in contrast, was right in front of him. Maybe his father's power was enough to keep them safe. With each stride, the idea made more and more sense to him. His father was in the lead, and he had his rifle. His whole life, Zack had never seen anyone or anything get the best of his father. "Holy shit," his father said. He stopped in his tracks. Zack leaned to the side to see around him. When his father turned, Zack nearly peed again. "Did you really shove your rifle barrel first into the dirt? Am I really seeing this?" Zack looked down. The questions clearly didn't need to be answered. Questions like that, when answered, brought a quick rap on the back of the head. "Sorry," Zack mumbled. He blushed and tried to move around his father to go collect his rifle. There was no way of knowing how many times he would have to clean the thing as punishment. Maybe 3 times? Maybe 4? He didn't get to the rifle before his father's hand landed on his shoulder. "Hold up," he said. Zack looked at him. His father's eyes were narrowed at the corners as he scanned the woods. When his father focused like that, he could see anything. Moving like silk in the wind, his father slid past him and lowered down to grab the rifle. He handed it back to Zack and kept stalking forward as he raised his rifle to his shoulder. With a tiny motion of his head, his father ordered him to follow close. So that's what Zack did. His father took a deep breath and passed it through his nose as he exhaled. He sounded almost like a teapot that's getting ready to boil. When he breathed like that, his father could smell anything. They both stared at the hole in the ground. Zack whispered a question. It was more to fill the silence than a burning need to know the answer. "Is that a cave?" His father glanced back, like he had forgotten that Zack was with him. "It's a den," his father said. "Too early for a bear den. Too late to be wolves. I can't say what it is." Zack wasn't ready for that answer. He was sorry that he had asked the question. His pants were wet, cold, and itchy. His heart never seemed to settle on a steady rhythm, and his hands were starting to sweat again. Zack wanted the day to be over, whether or not he got his first deer. As far as he was concerned at that moment, it might be time to switch to a vegetarian lifestyle. His father reached into a pocket and pulled out a tiny flashlight. He handed it to Zack. "Shimmy on in there and see what you can see," he said. "Find out if there's pups, cubs, bones, or scat or anything." "Huh?" Zack asked. His lips were too numb to close around any real words. "Go on in," his father said. "Whatever made that den is not in there, I can guarantee you that. You go in and gather some clues, like that TV show you like." Zack blinked. His brother was the one who liked those police detective shows. His brother read murder mysteries about crimes and clues. Zack liked science fiction, and people in those books never crawled around in holes in the ground. "Go," his father said. He pushed him towards the hole. Zack took a step forward. He fumbled with the flashlight and had to point it at his eye before he was sure that it was on. The order had been given. There was no use fighting it. Whatever was down that hole couldn't be as frightening as his father would be if he disobeyed. The dirt was packed down near the entrance. It was plenty big enough for his father to fit. The idea of making Zack go in there was absurd. Zack turned back. His father's eyes were scanning the woods again. "Should I bring my gun?" His father frowned and shook his head. "Don't be stupid. There's nothing in that hole worth shooting, and your gun's full of dirt." Zack nodded. He turned back towards the darkness. Zack lowered himself to his knees and put up his hood so dirt wouldn't go down his back. He shuffled and flashed his light around until he finally saw the beam. It was impossible to see in there after being out in the bright sun. He moved forward. His light picked up something colorful. Zack blinked until he recognized the shape. It was a flip-flop, the kind his mom used to wear when she had to walk on hot sand, but this one was big enough for a man's foot. "It goes around the corner. Should I follow it?" he asked. Zack thought he might get a reprieve from exploring. When they had a good blizzard and the plows pushed up a huge pile of snow, his father always told Zack and his brother not to dig an igloo. He said that it would collapse and bury them alive. Zack started to wonder if maybe the same rules applied to underground dens. "Shh," his father said. Zack moved forward. He formed a plan. The tunnel looked like it went deeper, much deeper, but his father would never know that. All he had to do was go just deep enough so his father's sharp eyes couldn't see him, and he could claim that he had explored the whole thing. Zack continued into the darkness. The flashlight picked up a beer bottle and a bag that had once held hot dog buns. He turned to make sure that he was hidden from his father's view. He wasn't. He could still see his father's eyes as the man studied the trees. It was good enough. His father wasn't watching. Zack could make up any story he liked. He pointed his light into the darkness one more time. The tunnel took another bend and looked like it got even taller as it descended. The floor ahead was dark and gray like concrete. His father was wrong. It had to be a man-made place. No animal would bother to burrow this deep or have a floor like that. When he turned back for the circle of light that represented the real world, Zack saw his father's legs move out of view. He opened his mouth to say that he was coming up. The smell made him hold his tongue. A breeze from above brought the sharp smell of doe urine that he had noticed earlier. The memory of that huge predator sprung back into his head. It was like the scent had unlocked it. Zack made one more quick glance into the dark and then started to shuffle for the surface. He was almost out when he heard the shot. Zack froze. He waited. "Zack," his father said. Relief washed through him. He clawed his way out of the hole. His father still had his rifle to his shoulder. "I guess I owe you an apology," his father said. "That was one scary motherfucker." He turned and flashed a nervous smile at Jack. In that moment, Zack saw his brother's features in the old man's face. He even saw a little of himself. He felt kinship. They were made of the same stuff. Movement in the tree caught his eye. His father turned and tilted his head as he watched. "That's not—" his father began. He didn't finish the sentence. Before his father could shoot again, the animal was on them. Chapter 2. Overnight. Jeff put his red and black bag down on the desk and walked to the end of the space to flip on the light switch. The office was in an attic, but it was a nice attic. The ceilings were sloped. They had skylights on one side and doghouse dormers on the other. There were 13 desks in the space. 2 of them, formed into an L, belonged to him. In the short time he had worked there, the attic had become like a second home. He turned his head at a whining sound from the next room. Jeff descended the 3 stairs and walked through the dark lab to get to the fabrication room. A single light was focused on the big printer. "Is it supposed to make that noise?" Jeff asked. Sam looked up from his tablet. He took his feet off the desk and scratched behind his ear. "Supposed to? I have no idea. That's the noise it's making, though. I'm not supposed to grease the rails, but if it were my 3D printer, that's exactly what I would do." Jeff moved closer. "Why do they make you babysit this thing anyway?" "Someone has to take the parts off, change the filament, and make sure the nozzle gets cleaned between jobs," Sam said. "How long has this job been running?" 16 hours, Sam said. Jeff's mouth fell open. Sam smiled. "By Monday, I'll already be making overtime." "Holy shit," Jeff said. "You think they would just set up a camera and let you monitor it remotely? Have you suggested that? You think Mr. Barbas would pay me a full wage for that?" Jeff shrugged, reconsidered, and then shook his head. "Which is why I haven't suggested that," Sam said. Jeff nodded. Sam started to get up. "You down for a snack run?" "In a minute," Jeff said. "I have to get my code cutting up that data first. Track me down in 30? "Done," Sam said. Jeff watched the printer for a few more seconds. The thing was hypnotic. Mounted on a series of rails, the head darted back and forth, dropping tiny lines of plastic that would meld to the plastic already there. It was like watching ice collect on a tree limb, almost impossible to see the progress from moment to moment, but the end result could be beautiful. Sam went back to his tablet. Jeff turned and went back to his attic office. With his music playing to fill the silence and his spinning desk light casting strange shadows, Jeff had just enough distraction to work. It was better to work at night. No interruptions, but a completely empty space freaked him out a little. He sipped his coffee and bounced his knee as he stared at his screen. There was a bug somewhere in the Cutter code, and Jeff had no idea how to find it. The program was supposed to cut up the database into manageable chunks. The guy who wrote it had quit. From what Jeff could tell, the programmer had been allergic to decent variable names. Usually, code was self-explanatory because variables were named things like number of polygons. After he got used to the style, Jeff could read source code like a book. This code was written like the functions were a secret. Maybe it was job security. Maybe the guy who had quit had been afraid of being fired and had written the code to be confusing on purpose. It was a terrible thought. If that were the case, then Jeff was going to have to decipher everything like a detective. He sighed. There was one obvious mistake he had already fixed. If he ran it again, it would take an hour, but at least it might give him a better clue as to what else was wrong. He couldn't decide. "Hey," Sam said. Jeff nearly jumped out of his chair. "You scared the shit out of me." "It's been 30. Snack?" "Yeah, okay," Jeff said. He hit the button, committing an hour to a process that would probably fail. It was better than banging his head against the wall. He pushed up and tilted his head to crack his neck. "How do you do that?" Sam asked. "And why?" Jeff shrugged. "How's the printing?" "It has another 3 hours at least, and I know they're going to reject it. It's not filled enough." "Why not stop it and start again with better settings?" Jeff asked. He rounded his desk and fell in beside Sam. They walked towards the stairwell. "Well, then it's my fault. I will back up the queue and take all the blame. If I deliver the part with the parameters ordered, then it's Gary's fault for submitting a bad job." Jeff nodded. The two of them had very different ideas of how they should contribute to the company, but Jeff wasn't about to make a stink. Sam had been there for 3 years. Jeff had barely been there for 3 months. "I don't suppose you heard about Mike?" Sam asked. "What about him?" Jeff asked. He reached forward and held open the door for Sam. "Fired Friday afternoon." "What?" Jeff asked. He wasn't a huge fan of the man, but Mike's position had appeared to be valued. "What for?" Sam paused near the doors to the bathrooms. He gave Jeff a look that suggested Jeff was being stupid. "What?" Jeff asked. Sam shook his head and opened the door. "I mean, he was pretty much torturing Kevin." Kevin was another of their coworkers. He wasn't popular, but work wasn't supposed to be a popularity contest as far as Jeff understood it. Kevin turned in solid work. "Yeah?" They started down the stairs. "Oh, yeah. Last year, Mike cut out a whole bunch of pictures of baby chimps. When Kevin was out sick, he took the pictures of Kevin's baby out of the frames and glued chimps' heads onto the kid." "Huh," Jeff said. "And Kevin used to keep a giant jar of peanut butter in his drawer. We're talking like a gallon jug of the stuff that he would eat by the spoonful whenever he thought nobody was looking. Mike put pubes in there." "Gross." "I know. The most recent thing happened last weekend. When Kevin came in on Monday morning, he sat down and they had replaced his monitor with the mini fridge from the kitchen." "No," Jeff said. Sam laughed. "The worst part was that when Kevin came in, he sat down and didn't notice. Instead of freaking out, he just opened the fridge and stared at what was inside. It looked like he was trying to figure out what to eat first." "You saw it?" "They made a video of it." "Wait, who's they?" Jeff asked. "Mike and them," Sam said. "And just Mike got fired?" Jeff asked. "It wasn't for the Kevin stuff. He got fired because when he was here over the weekend doing the fridge thing, he had sex with his girlfriend in the conference room." "What?" Jeff's voice reverberated in the stairwell. He stopped and looked at Sam's eyes in the dim glow of the weekend lighting. Sam smiled and looked like he wanted to laugh again. "Which end?" Jeff asked. Far end, down near the corner. He made a video of the deed, and it was in the same folder as the Kevin video. He must have known that everyone was going to click through to the far end, down near the corner. That's where I sit. Did he at least clean up? Sam shook his head. Not that I saw. I'm sure the cleaners wiped down the table on Tuesday night, or at least Thursday. I had a meeting there on Monday, Jeff said. He had barely been hungry for a snack before, but with this news he figured his appetite might be gone for good. Luck of the draw, Sam said. You might want to get a checkup sometime soon. Mike and his girlfriend don't seem like the least promiscuous people in the world. Who knows what you were exposed to? Jeff groaned. You take it, Sam said. I'm barely hungry. You take it, Jeff said. No, you spotted it first. It's all yours. How about we split it? No, Sam said. You can't split a bag of chips. Then we're both trying to make sure we get the most out of our half, or worse, we're both trying to make sure the other gets enough. No, splitting something without a fixed quantity is a bad idea. You take the chips. I'll get the crackers. Jeff shrugged and plugged his quarters into the machine. He hit the button. The spiral spun, but the chips hung up and didn't drop. It was the last bag. He couldn't even pay again and get 2 for 2. Karma, Sam said. He fed his dollar in and chose the crackers. How is that karma? You insisted I get the chips. That's just something shitty that happened. It's not karma, Jeff said. Here, Sam said. He handed Jeff the crackers and bumped the machine with his hip. The chips dropped, and he also dislodged a roll of hard candy. See? Sam asked. Karma. Jeff handed back the crackers and shook his head. You should really look up that word when we get back upstairs. Speaking of which, do you want to take a detour? Jeff thought about his cutting process. He had an hour to kill. He could read through the code and try to figure it out while the program made its cuts, but he had been doing that for days. He was tired of it. What detour? Sam glanced around the dark basement room like someone might be watching them. What if I told you that I know how to get back to the office without using the stairs? Jeff thought about it for a second. I'd probably say 2 things. No way and who cares? I don't know, Sam said. It's pretty cool. Fine, Jeff said. Excellent, Sam said. He started across the room to the side where the light from the vending machines didn't quite reach. Jeff followed slowly. Sam began to slide metal chairs to the side to make a path. At one point, the room had been a big cafeteria. It didn't look like it had been used for years. Jeff figured it was probably for the best. The painted cinder block walls and black ceiling didn't make it look very inviting to sit down to a meal. You have to help me move this table, Sam said. There was a huge round table next to the wall. Are you sure we should be doing this? Jeff asked. Absolutely. Our lease is on this whole side of the building, from the sub-basement to the attic. Just because we don't use the whole thing doesn't mean that we shouldn't have access to the whole thing. Why do we lease space we don't use? Jeff asked. He got on the other side of the table. They put their food down on the surface and curled their fingers under the top to lift. Sam counted and they picked it up. It was way heavier than it looked. Jeff had to shuffle to carry his end the few feet that they needed. Sam slid across the top to get to the other side where the door blended into the wall. I think it's cheaper. Besides, Mr. Barbas is always talking about expanding. Maybe he thinks that one day we'll need all this space. Jeff glanced down and thought about crawling under the table. He decided against it. The floor looked slightly dirtier than the surface of the table. As he crawled across the top, he discovered how sticky it really was. He wiped his hands on his jeans as Sam slid open the door. Wow, Jeff said, looking at the dark hall. Instead of cinder blocks, the walls of the hall were made of stacked slabs of stone. Every few feet, the stone slabs were interrupted by a vertical band of smaller stones, like a cobblestone arch. A string of light bulbs hung from the curved ceiling. When Sam hit the switch, they gave off a weak yellow glow. And this leads all the way to the French Resistance? Jeff asked. Sam laughed. I told you it was cool. I'm not sure that's the word I would use. This building used to do something with lumber or whatever. It was huge. There's a picture of it over in that place that sells muffins. They tore down half and put up our building. Then they tore down the other half and put up the restaurant and apartments. The Stoyer. Sorry? That's what it's called. The building that our offices leak into is called the Stoyer, Jeff said. Oh, Sam said. I guess I knew that at one point. Anyway, when they built the Stoyer, they kept part of the old foundation. This is it. Sam started into the arched passage and then turned back. Hold up, I forgot my drink. Jeff narrowed his eyes as Sam passed. Don't do anything funny, Jeff said. Like what? Sam asked. He moved through the door and then closed it behind himself. Jeff let out an exasperated sigh. He reached out and tried the handle. It was locked. Not funny, Sam, he yelled as he pounded on the door. Jeff shook his head and then pounded again. This way, a voice said from behind him. He turned and saw Sam standing at the other end of the passage. Coast is clear. He waved Jeff forward. It felt dangerous to Jeff. It felt like when they were kids and they cut through Mr. Kettleman's lawn. There was a rumor that he would shoot kids with rock salt. Even as a little kid, he never really believed it, but it would still make his heart flutter every time they cut through the yard. Weird, Jeff said as he trotted down to join Sam. The door is locked back there. I know, Sam said. He widened his eyes and gave Jeff an evil smile. Jeff looked up at the yellow light bulbs and sighed. I'm just kidding. You just jiggle the handle and it opens, Sam said. Come on, I'll show you the other way. Jeff nodded. He decided he was going to have to keep very close to Sam. How did you get on the other side of me? Jeff asked. Sam only laughed. The Stroyer, Sam said. He swung the door open with a flourish. It was a dramatic gesture for a perfectly undramatic room. There was a set of plain gray elevator doors, a light, and a door that led to stairs. It's Stoyer, Jeff said. Whatever, Sam said. Sam went to the elevator button. What are you doing? Jeff asked. Let's take the stairs. We can't. Sam gave his evil smile again. You take the stairs and they dump out the lobby. There's a locked door between you and the upper floors. So what? We go through the lobby out to the street and back in our door. You bring your keys? Sam asked. Jeff patted his pockets, but he already knew it was hopeless. He always dumped his keys on his desk when he sat down. He didn't like the way his jeans made them dig into his thigh while he worked. Since they didn't need keys to get to the snack room, he had left them on his desk. Me neither, Sam said, reading the answer on his face. It's elevator or bust. They're not going to let us go up to the residence floors. There's a doorman, Jeff said. That's what makes this an adventure, Sam said. The bell chimed and the elevator doors opened. Jeff shook his head and followed Sam into the compartment. His mind was flipping through the people he could call. Jana had a key, but she was away for the weekend. It was all she had talked about. Mike lived close, but apparently he had been fired. Okay, Sam said. He hit the button and they started to travel up. Do like this. Sam braced himself in the corner nearest the door and carefully lifted his feet up to the handrail. The bottom half of the elevator walls were mirrored, and the top was wood. Between the surfaces, a useless railing was mounted. Useless, except apparently to Sam. What are you doing? The strain of holding himself up on the railing was apparent in Sam's voice. In a second, those doors are going to open, and the doorman is going to glance to see who's getting off. This elevator always stops in the lobby. If you stand in the corner, he'll see the reflection of your legs. If you jump up like this, then we can sneak up to the third floor. The chime went off. Jeff heard the doors start to open. He didn't think, he just moved. Jeff spun around, braced his arms in the same way that Sam had done seconds earlier, and he jumped. One foot caught on the railing, and the other one slipped. He pulled it back in just as the doors finished opening. A shadow strolled in front of the door. In the mirrored bottom half of the wall, Jeff could see the dark pants and shoes of the doorman. Sam reached down with a careful finger and hit the third floor. The doors slid shut.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?